Good evening, all. Very warm welcome to everybody who is still staying with us, even if we are at the late evening sessions, and I believe everybody is very eager to leave right now. Yeah, so everybody who is still with us, please give yourself a great round of applause to still stitching us with this participation. So, following the session today, we have all the representatives from the capital providers to the recipients to the exchange side. And we already covered everything which is related to the MSME sectors in receiving the capital, to the regulatory aspect, to the capital building, to the valuation. But let's talk about the elephant of the room, which is how to procure the right capital. And for that, none other than Mr. Nandan, we have you here, who is the biggest entrepreneur. Mr. Dr. Raghunandan, we welcome you to be a part of this panel. He is the only SME representative here right now who can give us an insight of how his journey has been thin and throughout when he started with the inception of his venture.
Good evening to everybody. Thanks so much, Priya. Thank you so much, Ecostar, for having us here for this discussion. So one thing I'd like to put on record, like every corporate was always an MSME first. I mean, I don't know what was it called then, but definitely every big company was at some point of time a small company. There was a growth journey, and from then on they became large corporates, and at some point of time everything was skewed in their favor, where they were running the roost. It's only lately that MSMEs are coming into the forte, and before they could even have their time in the sun, the startups have taken that over. Now the flavor of the month is definitely startups. So that's the journey there. But that said, I don't think in India today, opportunity is not a challenge, really speaking. It is execution. It is what we do with those opportunities and convert them is what is really defining what we have. So like we saw in Dilip's presentation, that the government has so many schemes, there is so many opportunities, but there is a lack of awareness and there is a lack of lapping of that opportunities, whatever is given across. We do have crisis, and that's always been there. There has never been a point in history, right from the time we know our history till today, that there has been no conflict or whatever else is going around. But like they say, aapada mein avsar. In a similar manner, in every opportunity, in every crisis, there is always an opportunity. So anybody who's trying to take that up and build upon it should work out well. From our own journey, I think I've been in business for 23 years. If I classify this into two parts, it's about 20 years was running in sustenance, where we were trying to get out of the mold of the MSME, etc. But there was a turnaround journey that we suddenly took a decision, and we wanted to turn around the company. And that now, I think in the next 20 years, that is what comes across there. Bulk of it is definitely going to be about how you utilize whatever capital comes to you. I think that is the number one decision that can change the trajectory of any company, like it has done for ours. We do work in aviation and defense. So these seem to be two of the most spoken about segments in the late years. With conflict, we kind of look at it very interestingly, saying with every conflict there will be more procurement of arms and ammunition, and hence the defense platforms and systems. In aviation, the growth in aviation has been so much that one or two crises will not stem it. It's only a speed breaker. It will, in the large run, expand. In India, infrastructure is increasing at phenomenal rates. Anybody who's tagging themselves and associating themselves with that segment is definitely growing, and so is services. So when all the segments are growing, any blips that come across, it has to have a method to just run with that as it is. But keeping to the topic and what you mentioned about, I think capital at the right place, at the right time, to the right individual, can really turn around this. And it is interesting to note now that the people with the money are looking at MSMEs as a method where you can invest, and not just invest for making it as a favor to the MSME, but the kind of returns they can get could be phenomenal, which will not be possible with any blue chip investment that you do today. Right? So putting a rupee on a MSME versus startup versus corporate is always a choice with whoever has the money to put it in. But the risk aversion towards startup will always be there. Out of 10, 8 will collapse and 2 will go really big. In MSMEs, it could be like a 50-50 bet. And in corporates, of course, the growth will not be as fast as what it could be. 15% or 16% could be the growth that you're looking at on an annualized basis in the best case scenarios. But that again could just get wiped out in no time because that is sentiment driven. But I think in terms of MSMEs, a lot of it is PAT driven, EBITDA driven, and the MSME who puts everything on the line, I think deserves a little more. So while we heard everything talk about it, the time when the country, the investors and the governance starts putting the MSMEs in the forefront rather than just statistics, I think there can be great change in the flavor of the company. For example, in Germany, most of the good organizations are still MSMEs which are family owned, which are on the stock exchange maybe, but they're growing phenomenal. Siemens till very recently was in a similar manner. It's only later on they became corporates, etc. So this is just 2 cents of mine to begin the discussion, please.
So Dr. Raghu, we being the part of the industry on the recipient side and on the provider side, we always understand capital being the first and foremost priority. And when we talk about the financial need of any corporate, there are so many options that are available to cater to these needs. And it's never been how much will be too much. But as you talk about your journey from the inception to now being a mature company in the emerging market, especially like India, how well do you think is the right path at every business cycle, be it of any cyclical industry or non-cyclical industry, to cherry pick the right component out of the whole basket of these service providers along with the right products?
Right. So I think the equity versus debt conundrum is what kind of determines that. The more equity you have, the less interest cost that you'll have to bear, but then lesser control of what you're getting into that. You have debt available from the banks, the NBFCs, which are at, sometimes killer rates, but if you see the need, you definitely need to still go for that. And then that becomes a tiger that you can't get off, because if access to capital is there from debt perspective, you do end up paying that kind of interest. Your business needs to be able to generate something that is more faster than that. So the burnouts kind of will happen because the rate at which you're getting the money in is different from the rate at which you're spending the money out. And that deficit will keep on aggregating and building to a point of no return. Cash flow is the number one reason why most companies fail anyways there.
So see, there's always this chicken and egg story of this debt and equity mix that we always face in every growth cycle of any business cycle. So now, since you have seen more than 2 decades of the journey of the venture that you have started from the inception, if to any new budding entrepreneur, especially when he's starting from the MSME sector, you want to give an advice seeking your growth trajectory in the past 20 years, what would it have been that you mitigated that can increase and pace up the pace of your business into a compounding factor in quality and in quantitative terms?
So I think the number one advice I would give to my younger self, if I would give 20 years ago, is always work on the business and not in the business. Most MSMEs remain stuck in execution, operations, and working in the business. That's the reason why they're not able to even look out and see what's happening next. Second is have a team that you can work with. Empower them, let them grow. So in our case, last year, one of the biggest decisions we took is I hired on a CEO who came in, and I gave in a lot of authority to him to run the operations, which again in a lot of MSMEs doesn't happen, because if you're going to expect somebody senior to come in and them just being like signature pushers, it's not going to happen. And number 3 is don't be married to the business, because sometimes, I believe 100% of a grape is much, much smaller than a slice of a watermelon. So you need to give out a part of your business at some point of time or the other for whatever valuation it takes. But the money that comes in, if you're able to grow it, I think it's worth it. You'll still have, let's say, 3/4 of a watermelon compared to having the full part of the grape. As an analogy, I don't know.
Thank you so much, Raghurandan. So moving on further, now we have heard about the capital receiving side. My next question is to you, Mr. Nitin. Since you are here on the representation side of the institutional lenders and the capital providers, which every industry and every segment of the corporates need. Since on the holistic side, if we look at the top-down approach, we have supranational funds, we have sovereign funds, we have the state agencies who cater to the needs of the upcoming, any diversified capital needs that MSME or be it the large caps face. In your growth trajectory or the past experiences looking at the 50, 60 years of the transitions from the unorganized to more concentration on the organized sector, how do you think the MSME is well perceived to this institutional backup in the form of the sources and the products that institutions like you are being able to provide?
I'll take this question as a general question rather than my organization specific. See, MSME has come a long way. I mean, it started with banks being averse to lending to SME because of course, the track record what we had in the past. But those are the gone days. Now SMEs have come on the center stage, and the government has also realized that. And accordingly, the various measures have been taken, and now more and more SMEs are being able to avail bank finance. More importantly, there are, in addition to the bank finance, there are schemes which are being rolled out, providing bankers incentive to finance SMEs. So which is a very important step which has been taken. Just to give you an example, there is a credit guarantee scheme which provides a guarantee to the banker to lend to SMEs without security. And that is very important step what the government has taken. And as my fellow friend said, it is not that SME wants to not repay the loans. Sometimes the situation happens, or sometimes it is the delays in the repayment or clearance of their invoices which results into such difficulties. So in short, we have to deal this in two ways. One is the capital, and second is the working capital. So even on working capital side, there are many incentives or schemes that are available, or platforms that have been created by the government. If I may mention about the TREADS, which is a platform which has been set up under the guidance of RBI. It is basically discounting the receivables or the invoices of SMEs which are supplying to the AA, AAA rated OEMs. So this platform has been evolving, and it has registered a very high growth rate in the past, because bankers also feel it is more secure, because the kind of NPAs or bad loans that they have experienced by using this platform are less than 1% or 2%, which is very encouraging for the bankers as well. So these are the measures which are helping SMEs to overcome their challenges in terms of capital or the working capital financing.
So, but Mr. Nitin, there is one thing that I have observed in my span working with the professionals and the corporates. MSME sector is still reluctant in receiving the banking channels which will choke down their top lines to the bottom lines. How well do you think the services that is being offered by this institution is well aware among the community of MSME sector?
See, the awareness is very important, as you said. I mean, in many times we have experienced there is a lack of awareness. but a lot of promotional efforts have been or is being taken by even the government bodies. There are many events, conferences, investment meets that are happening to increase this awareness at state level as well as at central level. And that is helping SMEs. There are many other channel members which are also involving into promotion of these schemes, which are helping SMEs to raise capital. So it's not that immediately the results will be visible, but over the years there is an encouraging response, and things are getting spread in a positive way.
Thank you, sir. While we still think that there is still a reformation that is required from the regulator's side to keep it more welcoming for the MSME sector when it comes to the lending channels and the product solution mix.
See, I'll give you one example. Government is definitely keeping abreast of the developments and its responsibility to support SMEs. Just to give an example, just few days back, government has provided an impetus of more than, I may be wrong in the figure, but somewhere around 2 lakh crores of rupees towards the what I mentioned earlier. It is a guarantee scheme. So provided to the bankers for lending to SMEs without security, and this has been taken especially in the current situation, which is resulting in the inflationary pressures because of the Iran war and the shortage of fuel, which is going to even compound in the days to come, most likely. So government has been proactive in taking up such steps to timely intervene and support SMEs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nitin. So while we are talking about the awareness among the corporates about all the lending sectors, the channels, the availability, the awareness on the regulator side, my next question is to you, Mr. Atul. How do you think to channel this bridge between the provider and the recipient, the awareness can play a role, and through what channels that you think need to be reformed among the community now?
Thank you. So what channel specifically there, to my mind, there is not one specific reply to this question. But I'll take this in a positive direction despite global slowdown, as they say, despite global crisis, as they say, wars and uncertainty of the availability of energy supplies. Looking at a midterm to long-term overview of industry in India, there is a great future is what I could gather from today's discussion, because there is no shortage of time, there is no shortage of money, and Dilip sir said that 68% are unaware, right, as Nitin sir also pointed out, that 68% of the people are unaware. Only awareness will reach from these 1450 listed entities to maybe another 1,000, another couple of thousand, that will actually boost the total market capitalization from the SMEs double or maybe more than that. And the employment generated also would go double or even more than that. And imagine, of the 7.3 crore SMEs available operating, and I also agree that not all may be eligible for being listed. Maybe a small fraction of percent could be eligible for being listed, or they could have the system or wherewithal to get into the exchange and getting listed. But still there is a huge scope of enhancement of economy. You asked what is the one thing, what is the one measure that needs to be taken? And if you are asking maybe all of us to zero down on one measure, it is perhaps the awareness. If we are only aware, see, government is evolving and they have brought up with multiple schemes and they are evolving continuously. It's just the question of more and more people coming in. And these energy and war crisis will go away, fade away eventually. And they would not take longer before the world witnesses peace.
Absolutely. Like Mr. Dilip's session has really been an eye-opening, where it has been rightly said that the more of the concentration is still lies in the family-oriented businesses. And the family trap is the real thing which is
Family
exist in the
fractures.
market. And the data he has shown is really been enlightening and very insightful. Thank you so much, Mr. Dilip, to give us a really amazing session on it. That is an
Really,
eye-opener
thanks,
for
thanks.
us. But Dr. Atul, one thing which I always say that it's always a catch-33 situation, wherein I asked Mr. Raghunandan also, debt equity mix. Nobody knows what will be the right way for you. There is not a right way, neither a wrong way. You always have to pick a side and get on it to eventually reach to the goal, to the vision that you have seen. My question to all the panel channels here right now is, well, while you are at the stage where you are deciding to incept a business, specifically when you started at the MSME sector, and especially in the capital intensive industry like Dr. Rananandan has started, if you have a vision to reach to a mature company, to a growth company, having a value stock and having a right valuation and exit in the capital market, how do you well position yourself in an economy like India, which is still an emerging market?
Well, if you allow,
Yes,
I will
please.
take the question and answer it a little before the stage that you have described there. An MSME, or even for that matter, any enterprise, so to say, small enterprise, is founded with a lot of energy and emotion. Now, what is needed, even if you ask me to analyze with my humble understanding of the subject, what among awareness, what are the subtopics that are needed to be taught to an entrepreneur? I will definitely emphasize on not depending upon the heroism of the entrepreneur who has one day joined it with a lot of energy and emotion, now needs to graduate to system and continuation. Only when he has a system, only when he has a system that is working for him, he will be able to approach to the likes of Nitin Mahajani sir and to the likes of Sri Ajay ji and BSE, so to say. So all these people who are enabling the progress of entrepreneurs are those entrepreneurs who have realized that individual heroics are no more useful. Now coming to the evolved question of what should be the balance of debt and equity, what should be the right approach, and what are the stages to that effect for that matter. These are, I think, the learnings for individuals, depending upon the sector, depending upon the marketplace, depending upon the existing clientele. Mr. Raghu and someone else in his same sector, though niche, may have a completely different approach to handling one and the same issue. So therefore, these things will evolve and they will be tailor-made to every individual as an organization. But the organization itself has to evolve from an individual to become an organization. That is my approach to this. Rest of the things will fall in place, is what my response to your question may be.
Thank you so much, Dr. Atul. That has been a really insightful vision that you have shared with us. So,
Maybe
any
you may want to take. Raghu is also equally qualified to say about this, and Nitin sir.
See, there is no fixed answer what should be debt equity ratio. It is the life cycle of a business in which the debt equity ratio gets decided. It also depends on what is the inherent strength of the entrepreneur who is taking up the business. If there is security available, of course, he can go for a higher debt equity ratio right in the beginning. Otherwise, it will be more of equity, less of debt, till the time a sustainable level of operation is built. Based on the cash flows, the banker gets comfort and the lending happens, and that is when the debt equity ratio increases. Again, we have seen corporates, once they reach a particular level, particular stage, their basic aim is to reduce the debt and that is also in a way to provide cost effectiveness to their operations, because debt is expensive always. So it is the inherent strength of the business and the life cycle of that business which determines what should be the debt equity ratio.
Yeah, and in any way, if you have chosen any right amount of mix at any cycle, if anything goes down, we always have great institutions like special situation funds who can back you up to recourse it and to get a redemption. Thank you all the panel members
Thank
to
you.
be a part of this insightful session. Now I ask anybody amongst the audience who have any question for our panel members.
If everyone is awake, there could be
Yeah. So given the crunch of the time we are having right now, I'm just handing over to Mr. Uday Kumar to conclude it and let it to further sessions.